This is the Best Health Podcast, brought to you by Wake Forest Baptist Health in partnership with MedCost.
All right, welcome everyone. We have a great summer edition of the Best Health Podcast. I'm Justin Gomez with Wake Forest Baptist Health, and I have two really fun yet very educational and bright guests with me to provide lots of good information, but in a fun way. So I have Jane Anderson and Katie Ward, and they're both registered dietitians here at Wake Forest Baptist Health. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so it's we have a great time on the Best Health Podcast, so just sit back, relax, and we're going to talk about, so it's summertime, and with summertime comes vacations and different types of schedules, and you're going to talk about still maintaining some sort of wellness standard during the summer months when you're on vacation, right? To diet or not to diet. How do I exercise when I'm on vacation, or do I not worry about it? All this fun stuff, right? Because we're going lots of different places over the summer, and you guys are going to help us stay on track and not just go totally off the rails, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, so before we get started with that good information, Jane, just tell us a little bit about yourself first, and how long you've been at Wake Forest Baptist, and how'd you get into the idea of becoming a registered dietitian?
Sure, yeah. I started about 1.5 years ago with Wake Forest Baptist, and I work exclusively with employees. Katie and I both do. What attracted me to the field of nutrition, dietetics, is really disease prevention, mm-hmm. and wanting to be part of health promotion, so kind of taking a different approach toward healthcare. And I was, I guess, a junior in college when I made that decision, a little late in the game, but I first got pulled in with working with an Indian reservation in Mississippi, which is where I'm from, and did a lot of nutrition education there.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I didn't know a whole lot then, but hopefully I've come a long way. And after I did that, then I did my dietetic internship or training in mm-hmm. New Orleans at Tulane.
Okay.
And then I did a program called Food Corps, which is under the AmeriCorps umbrella, but related specifically to food nutrition with underserved communities and children.
That's really cool. I didn't know that existed.
Mm-hmm. And
so where did you, where were you stationed during that time?
I did that on the Gulf Coast in Mississippi.
Okay.
Too. It's actually really strong in North Carolina too. Food Corps as a program. Mm-hmm. From there, I did graduate school in public health at the University of Minnesota. Mm-hmm. Landed here about 3 years ago, and have been in Winston-Salem since.
Well, we're glad you landed here at Wake Forest Baptist for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Katie, it's your turn. Tell us your life story in about 45 seconds.
Okay. So I've been here since, it'll be 2 years in October. So Jane and I started around the same time. And I moved here I was in the Seattle area. That's where I was doing my training. I went to grad school there and did my dietetic internship there. And what really has drawn me to nutrition is I guess the whole wellness and prevention aspect of it. I kind of grew up, my family really incorporated wellness into my upbringing, and then dietetics wasn't an option in my undergrad. I went to undergrad in Illinois, grew up in the Midwest, and they didn't have a dietetics program, so it wasn't really on my radar at all at that point. I was just kind of exploring different kind of alternative, I guess, healing and medicine routes to do, and nutrition just seemed like the most obvious fit. I love food, and I think that's probably what drew me here the most, is just
Sure.
how much I love food. So I want everybody to love food and love eating well. So we moved here. My husband is in med school at Wake. He's in his 3rd year now, so we've been here almost 2 years, mm-hmm. and be here a little while longer at least.
Well, there you go. Well, I'm glad you all are joining us today, and it's very appropriate timing-wise. So school just got out here in this area, and so families have their summer vacation plans in the works. And so I know my family, we're going to a family wedding in a couple weeks. The boys love camping, so we're going to a campground later this summer, where I think we're going to take a long weekend at the beach. And so with that, so we're kind of creatures of habit. I'm not a medical professional. Jump in if I'm wrong, but I think humans are kind of creatures of habit. So when we get out of our routine and get out of our habit, we can kind of just put off some of our good habits that we have as far as wellness, as far as eating or exercising. So when we go on vacation, I guess talk to us a little bit about this. We have this all or nothing mentality of, I know I thought this and said it out loud when I'm on vacation. Okay, well, the Monday when I get back, I'm back on track, and then I can just kind of let myself go here at the beach or on vacation. So I guess if one of y'all or both of you want to talk about, just the mentality of it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can still have fun on vacation, but make some good choices.
Yeah, vacation is definitely a time to enjoy yourself. So you want to make sure to have some kind of balance between enjoying yourself, but also keeping your health in mind. You want to feel good. You want to be healthy, but you want to have fun as well. So I think that striking that balance is important to keep in mind while you're on vacation.
Sure, and I'll jump in here too. This is a really common question with employees that we get, that they're preparing for different trips like you are, Justin, and thinking through, I've been working really hard to follow, I meal prep during the week and make my own lunches or breakfast and do that most of the time with dinner. And that's easy or easier when there's a routine at home. So with trips and different travel, it can kind of derail some of those habits, like you were talking about being creatures of habit. So we get a lot of questions about how do I still kind of follow these health goals that I have without that, or still enjoying the trip too.
Sure.
So striking a balance and like Katie was saying, focusing really on how you want to feel. You want to be active on your trip and have a good blend of indulging in foods that you love at the same time, being able to still be active and focus on healthy foods to you.
Sure. So I guess talk a little bit more about I guess kind of the basis of how we should make our decisions when we're on vacation. So I guess the first step might be to actually process through and think about your options as opposed to just mindless eating or just not thinking about options at all. So what do you? I guess you guys kind of set it up as how do you want to feel on vacation? So I guess encouraging people to go through that process. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and planning is a big part of it. If you're traveling on a plane or driving in a car or just thinking about where you're going to be, try to think ahead of time of what food options are there. You may be surprised and be able to find some healthy options. You might not, and you have to be prepared to just do the best you can in either circumstance. So, planning ahead is definitely the first, I think, most important step.
Yeah. And I always tell people to think about the big picture too. So if you can, make your plan of we're going on this 8-hour car ride.
Right.
So we'll definitely be in the car for maybe breakfast until almost dinner time. So having something that's easy, portable to eat on the road, and then some kind of snacks in the car too. And then maybe some sandwiches or something easy to eat with your hands. That's key in the car. So that kind of plan in place. And then if you miss that, to not worry about it too much if you didn't have time to pack a lunch or get that together, and just think about, well, if we stop somewhere and grab something overall, trying to go for something that you feel good about eating.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Not getting
that's
a choice.
Yeah, that's a huge thing for our family. It's just my wife does a much better job than I do of planning for the road trips and the car trips, of having, apple slices or oranges to snack on instead of, I won't name a brand, but any brand, potato chips or chocolate chip cookies. So I guess just having those types of different options, especially for the kiddos. For us, I know it helps for the car trip. So that's a great point about the road trips. I'm glad you brought that up. So what about when we're on vacation? So one thing that my family likes to do when we're on vacation is eat out, right? So it either be some sort of celebration, if it could be, like I said, there's gonna be plenty of food at this wedding we're going to in a few weeks, or we go to the beach. Where you gotta go when you're at the beach, you gotta hit up the seafood buffet, right? And then so the buffet is just miles and miles of food. So I guess if you want to touch on that, because I know a lot of people like to go out and eat when they're on vacation and maybe turn off the filter a little bit. So, but even going out, you can still enjoy your meals, but still make some good choices, right?
Yeah, usually even fast food restaurants are getting better at having some kind of salad option. So whether you're on the road stopping at fast food or you're at your destination and you're going out to a nicer restaurant, there's usually going to be some healthy option to choose from. And whether or not, even if you don't have a healthy option to choose from, eat slowly, enjoy your food. Maybe you don't need to eat the whole portion that they give you, but pay attention to that. Pay attention to your fullness and pay attention to your hunger. It's so much in our mindset to clear our plates. Ever since probably we were little kids, we've always been told, clear your plate. You can't leave the table till you clear your plate. Yes. So we see this, plate coming to us in a restaurant. It's like, okay, here's my task. I have to eat this whole thing. So slowing down a little bit and really paying attention to your satiety, whether you're choosing a healthy option or there's not a healthy option or there's something else that you choose. You can choose how much you eat and really paying attention to how you feel and how your body signals for telling you to stop.
Yeah, and thinking about buffets, that's a good point. With that doesn't have to be just restaurants, or it can be a lot of like family reunions is something I think of too, or barbecues. That there's food aplenty. so that's where I would return back to the thinking all or nothing. Like, this doesn't have to be I'm on vacation, nothing else matters, this is my cheat day. We really actually discourage cheat days, quote unquote, because people tend to get into the all or nothing, and really it's all about finding a balance of really like enjoying foods that you love and then feeling good about eating what you're having too.
Sure. And I'm glad you brought up the little tidbit about paying attention to your body, because when you're enjoying this really delicious, maybe not so healthy food in the moment, it tastes good, but then 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, 45 minutes later, you just feel like blah. Especially if you're on a road trip, it makes you sleepy and lethargic, and you still have 5 hours on the road to drive. So I guess talk about how our body reacts to certain types of food that maybe not so healthy foods, and just help explain that to people, to keep that in the back of their mind. Of it might taste real good in the moment, but how am I going to feel 45 minutes from now?
Right. Yeah, that's a really important point, because you don't want to feel bad on your vacation. You're on vacation. You want to enjoy it. You want to be awake when you're driving, and you want to be able to enjoy wherever you're at. And going back to the point about, you mentioned 20 minutes later, you might feel like blah. And it actually takes our brains about 20 to 30 minutes to register our fullness. So I usually recommend for people to, if you're eating something, try to stop eating when you're, maybe neutral or just satisfied or maybe just starting to feel full. And then most likely 20 to 30 minutes later, you'll feel, okay, I am full. I'm glad I stopped. Whereas, if you're eating really quickly and not really thinking about it, you're a lot more likely to overeat and then feel poorly. And I think that's, especially when you're on vacation, you want to feel good. You want to be able to do the things that, with your family, or the special things that you have planned.
Yeah, and I was thinking about another simple way to think about feeling energized, feeling good. Mm-hmm. If there are questions about what does that even look like as far as what I should eat, having a balance of, when you do have a meal, some kind of starch, whether that's potatoes, some kind of bread, grain, rice, and then some representation of protein, which can be of course, meat, eggs, beans, and then some sort of vegetables and fruits. So having the majority of that be some kind of vegetables is always a good thing. And then, again, the starch and protein balance. And that combination of foods is really what helps you feel full and sustains fullness, too, for longer. Because if we focus only on starch or only have that for snacks, then that's what kind of, it doesn't last long. And that can lead to some of that sleepiness, sluggishness later.
Yeah.
So having that kind of balance of different types of food is one way to help feel more energized.
Yeah, that's a great point. So what I like, you guys have lots of cool little helpful tools in your offices, and one of the things that I like that I've seen over there is the little portion control containers, right? So you have this much should be vegetables or fruit, this much should be your protein or your meat possibly, and then this much should be your starch. So people can acquire those types of containers on their own. They can purchase them online or at their local store just to help. Going back to planning, if we're going to go spend the day at the beach, let's put them in containers so we don't eat the whole bag of potato chips, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one other thing, and this is in our notes, and this is a very relevant term for my family, hangry. So I may or may not be guilty of this. If you ask my wife. I know my kids are, and maybe if they hear this, they'll be like, "Dad, why'd you say that?" But so talk to us about why do we get hangry, and then how can we avoid, especially with the kiddos, either in the car or at the pool or at the beach. How can we avoid getting to that point where it's go time, it's hangry time? So I guess talk about what is hangry. I mean, that's the kind of the lay person term, but what's happening with our body during that time and how we can avoid it.
Yeah, so I think when I'm guilty of being hangry too, I think that anybody who's been around me and when I haven't eaten can tell. And I think that's typically a symptom of your blood sugar getting low. And you might feel, that might come out as hanger, that might come out as lightheadedness or dizziness or headaches.
Sure.
People definitely feel it in different ways. And
Foggy brain. Some people describe it that way.
Foggy brain?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My husband is one who he won't necessarily feel hangry in the same way that I do, but he'll get a headache. And then he'll realize, I haven't eaten in 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, I think the rule of thumb is to eat every 4 to 5 hours, just to make sure that your liver stores aren't depleted.
Okay.
So taking that into consideration, the best way to avoid being hangry is to, again, think ahead of time and do as much planning and having stuff on hand with you, because if you let yourself get to the point of hanger, you're more likely to reach for whatever's in sight. You just want the quickest and fastest and easiest thing.
Yes, that is totally true.
Mm-hmm.
So planning, going back to planning, any other tidbits for preventing the hangriness?
Yeah, I would say again the balance with meals and snacks, and thinking about, even if you are sometimes eating every few hours, if you're just having something starchy or something that isn't necessarily going to sustain you, then you can still be kind of hangry because your blood sugar drops again. So having that blend of protein, some fat, and carbohydrate in your meals and snacks can help avoid that, because it has a little bit more even, consistent blood sugar effect.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if I am, I guess, looking for some practical tips here, if I'm going through the airport or going through, we're stopping at your fuel center of choice to refuel your vehicle, you need to maybe refuel your body too. I don't want to necessarily reach for the Snickers bar every time, speaking of hangry. But maybe what are some tips that you could give some of our listeners about some options? Even though it's not the best environment, there's not going to be a professionally made chef salad at the gas station. I don't think. not at most gas stations anyways. But if you're running through the airport on the way to catch your plane or at the gas station, what are some tips you can give us?
Ooh, that's a good question. This is always challenging too because I like to strike a balance between somewhat healthy and also affordable, which can be tricky. And because stores that are much dependent on your convenience being a big factor will price up a lot of the healthier items. But like Katie was saying before, there are a lot of stores that are getting many more healthy options in them. Some things I've noticed, there's usually fruit, apples, oranges, yogurt is pretty common. There are cheese sticks a lot of times. Popcorn's also becoming more and more popular. There are several different brands.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And nuts too. Usually you can find nuts in either gas stations or at the airport. And airports and gas stations have those little baskets of fruit, and usually those aren't priced up too bad. But the price thing is definitely tricky.
Yeah, and it can be easy to get into, again, habit and routine. We each have our vice snacks in the car that we'll go for on road trips, but blending that, like if you're in the car with multiple people, maybe you can split the indulgent thing and then go for some healthier choices too, like fruits and nuts and that kind of thing.
Sure. So if you can briefly kind of give a little nugget about what your idea of mindful eating is, something that people one of the takeaways from this podcast that they can keep in the back of their head, how would you succinctly describe mindful eating?
Sure. You want me to go first?
You can go first.
So with mindful eating, I think of slowing down, using all your sensory experiences, actually looking at what you're having to eat, smelling it, tasting it, having a really thoughtful experience with how it tastes, whether you really enjoy it, and also how your body responds to it. So many times we can mindlessly eat and not realize that we've gone beyond the point of fullness. So, paying attention to both the food and your body.
Yeah. So, and that will probably just help you enjoy the food more if you're trying to use all of your senses, right?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes less, but hopefully more.
Yeah, I always think of, if we get some kind of cookies or, something, and a lot of times we might just eat that mindlessly and just because it's there. But then when you slow down, you might realize, like, this cookie isn't even that good. Like, I would rather have a better cookie or something else. So I think mindful eating is also about enjoyment of your foods, and a lot of times you do have to slow down in order to be able to tell, am I actually enjoying this, or am I just eating it because it's there? Am I actually hungry, or am I just eating it because it's there?
Sure. And I really like this little nugget y'all provided about so vacation is a time for rest and relaxation and rejuvenation and re-energizing. So it's okay to have some fun and indulge a little bit. But y'all said, not treat it like it's your last meal ever on Earth, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Or maybe, going on your last vacation ever. So there's life after this meal on vacation. So balance is the key, I'm hearing, and trying to plan ahead, right?
Yep.
Well, cool. Well, we're wrapping up here in a minute. Are there any little memorization tools you can give me of so like in middle school health class, right? They make you look at the food pyramid. So I'm not even sure if the food pyramid is still a thing you guys go by or not, but I guess just if you're gonna help us store some information in the back of our brains for people that are listening, which is kind of a quick rule for having the proper balance of what food we're consuming.
I guess thinking of like the components that Jane was talking about, the having vegetable starch protein. So VSP.
Yeah.
And now for people who have seen the government's now replaced the food pyramid with the My Plate example, which is a picture of a plate that shows half your plate being vegetables, a quarter of it being protein, and a quarter of it being a whole grain. Okay. So if you can envision that, that's a good guide for meals.
Cool deal. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining us for this Best Health podcast. Really appreciate it. Hope you all have enjoyed yourselves.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, this was fun.
Awesome. Well, we'll have you back probably around the holidays, because that's another time that people are thinking about food a lot and eating a lot of food. So we'd love to have y'all back then and talk about how to help us keep a balance during the holidays too.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so we have this information available on our website, wakehealth.edu/besthealth. And there's other recipe ideas and other health and wellness tips on that website as well. I'll mention it again, wakehealth.edu/besthealth. And if you want to talk to your primary care physician, or if you want to talk to a dietitian here at Wake Forest Baptist Health, or someone with weight management, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome just to call our number 336-716-WAKE. And you can make an appointment that way as well. So thanks again, team, for listening to this session for the Best Health podcast, and we'll talk with you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Best Health podcast, brought to you by Wake Forest Baptist Health. For more wellness info, check out wakehealth.edu and follow us on social media. Wake Forest Baptist Health, the gold standard of healthcare.